Hello, thank you for joining me. Welcome to this webinar on wetting agents and specifically velvet wetting agents. Today we're going to be talking about the technology of wetting agents and then I'm going to run through the wetting agents that we have in the Velvit range and help you understand where those might be used, the application rates, etc. This webinar is being recorded, so if you have to leave, if you're watching live and you have to leave early, then that's fine, don't worry. We'll send you a link after the webinar's finished where you can watch the recording. You can share that recording with your friends and colleagues. And then at some point we will upload the recording to our GreenBest Academy where you'll be able to watch it there and also encourage your colleagues to watch it as well. So yeah, I'm Lacey, and if you don't know me, I've worked for GreenBest for nearly 10 years now. GreenBest are a manufacturer of turf care related products. We manufacture for many types of companies across the world and in the UK. And Velvit is primarily what I'm going to be talking about today. Velvit is a branded range of products that we produce, that we keep in stock and we sell through distributors to end users such as greenkeepers, groundsmen, those looking after sports pitches, etc. So this is a specifically branded range of products. We also manufacture a lot of things to order. As always, if you're ever interested in buying any products from us, please get in touch. We have lots of things that we can help you with. So let's start the presentation for today. So again, wetting agents. So I'm Lacey. My role at GreenBest is sales and product development, which means that in addition to selling fertilizers, I also help with product development. I'm on the team. We take feedback from our customers and from the industry, and we put that into new products to make sure that what we sell is products that are needed, and also that we're sort of filling the gaps of things that our customers need. So in this webinar today, we're going to be looking at what are wetting agents, and specifically wetting agents are surfactants, and so we're going to cover what are surfactants and how do they work. So there's a few technologies within wetting agents it's quite good to know about, and this will help you to understand how to use them, how you shouldn't use them, things like that. And then towards the end, the second half of the webinar, we're going to look at the Velvit wetting agents, the names, the products, how to use those. And then at the very end, I'll go through a few questions. If you have any questions whilst I'm talking during the webinar, please feel free to, if you are watching live, put them in the chat box. I have a colleague or two that's in the chat and they'll be sat there waiting and they can answer your questions there. Anything that needs following up after the webinar, we will do that with you. If you're watching on the Academy, please feel free to email us questions at academy@greenbest.co.uk or sales@greenbest.co.uk. I'll give all that information to you at the end of the slides. Okay, so let's begin. So what are wetting agents? Wetting agents are surfactants, and surfactant is a word that is short basically for surface active agents. They're kind of like, washing up liquid when you're washing your dishes, etc. And you've got some sort of fatty residue on the plates. Washing up liquid helps that water to wash that residue off. So it helps surfaces to wet. It allows easier contact between water and substrates. That's the substrate being the soil and the water obviously being rain or your irrigation water. And so what this means is if you have a hydrophobic soil, the wetting agent will help that water to wet it faster. So you're less likely to get runoff. That's rain and irrigation water just sort of running off top of the soil down into the lakes and rivers, etc. And if you're fertilizing, to get the fertilizer into the soil rather than just sort of washing it off the top of the soil. And there's a few ways that soils can become hydrophobic. It often happens in the summer when it gets really dry soil becomes very difficult to re-wet. Basically, there's bacteria in the soil, and as they're sort of munching away on organic matter, etc., and just living their lives and making your soil healthy, they build up this waxy residue on the soil particles. When it dries out, it just makes it quite difficult to wet. And sometimes you might see that there are very large areas, very large patches of turf that have this sort of hydrophobic condition, and might get rain occasionally, and all the other grass is fine, looks fairly green, but that particular patch is rather dried out, really suffering from some drought stress, and we call that localized dry patch. That's just one very localized area, very dry hydrophobic soil. So what are surfactants and how do they work? So surfactants are molecules. The molecules obviously very, very, very small. We cannot see them, really small. And a surfactant is a product that has a molecule with two parts. So one part of the molecule is water loving, we call that hydrophilic, and one part is water hating, and we call that hydrophobic. And so you have these two sort of polar opposites of this molecule. And how it works is when it's in a solution, on the right hand side here, I've got a little image where you've got some of these surfactant molecules in some water. And then the hydrophilic parts sit in the water and the hydrophobic tails stick out. And how it will help this water to wet some hydrophobic surfaces, that the hydrophobic tails will happily bond with that hydrophobic surface and then help the water to wet it. It's sort of like a bridge. So again, we have the situation where the water loving parts are always in the water and the hydrophobic parts are sticking out. If you have a very high concentration of surfactant, you get these little micelles in the water, like little sort of almost like bubbles, where the surfactants kind of arrange themselves in a little circle with their hydrophobic tails inside. And you've always got free surfactant molecules floating in around the water, and they're always constantly changing place. The shorter the tails on these molecules, the faster they move. And that comes into play when you're using them in sort of sprays. So if the finer the spray of the liquid that you're hoping to wet the soil with, you want shorter tails, because it means that the molecules will move faster, and therefore when that spray hits the surface, it will work a lot quicker. Now here's an interesting part. So surfactants, a washing up liquid is a surfactant. Washing detergent that you put in your washing machine, that's also a surfactant, but they are different to wetting agent surfactants. We cannot use washing up liquid on turf because it is quite damaging, can scorch, and the reason for this is its charge on the hydrophilic part. So wetting agents are non-ionic, and this is the top one. This means there's no charge on that hydrophilic part. And this means that they can quite happily be tank mixed. Very usually they can tank mix quite happily with various fertilizers and other things, and the fact that it's not charged will cause that mixture to be more stable. We have anionic surfactants, which are below that. Those are the ones that are washing up liquid. So if you look at the back of your washing up liquid bottle, you'll see it says 5 to 10% anionic surfactants. Cationic surfactants, those are in washing conditioners. So washing detergent is anionic. So you wash your clothes with a anionic detergent. It makes the clothes have a slightly negative charge. They feel a bit stiff because that's because the fibers are all sort of like bonded together. And so if you put a cationic surfactant in, which is your washing conditioner, then it releases that, makes the clothes feel a lot softer, and that is the molecular way of how these things work. So these are more sort of very harsh surfactants to use, and we don't use them on turf because if you're using a anionic or cationic surfactant, it will likely to pull various nutrients away from the soil particles. It will sort of wash away the good bits that you need out of the soil. We don't want that. Also, the charges can cause the lawn to scorch, so it can draw water out of the lawns. So again, we only use non-ionic, non-charged surfactants in wetting agents. The amphoteric ones, these are the ones at the bottom, their charges change depending on the pH, and those are products that are also non-scorch. They would make good wetting agents. They're quite expensive, quite difficult to make, and they are usually used in things like sensitive skin shampoos for children, etc. So we stick with non-ionic, uncharged surfactants for turf wetting agents. So the way we can measure how good a surfactant is and how well it's working is by measuring the surface tension of a liquid. So if you think about a little bubble of water sat on a hydrophobic surface. This picture here is mercury sat on a surface. It has a very high surface tension. The higher the surface tension, the rounder that droplet is. So you can see mercury's got a really high surface tension. Dynes is a way of expressing surface tension in a number, and the higher that is, the higher the surface tension is. So mercury's surface tension is 486.5 dynes per centimetre, and you can see in that picture that the mercury sort of sits in a very round bead. Water has more of a sort of like a semicircle shape when it sits on surfaces. It's got a much lower surface tension, but again, it's still not as low as lots of other things. So ethanol is even lower. So if you put a drop of water on a piece of plain cardboard, it will sit in a little blob. If you put a piece of ethanol, a drop of ethanol, the same quantity, it will sort of be more spread out. And if you add wetters to the water, it will act to make that more spread out. So you can actually see if you're dropping water onto hydrophobic soil, it drops in little droplets. If you put it on and you've treated it with wetter, it will just soak straight into the soil particles. And this is an example where we have used a very small, that's why the picture's not great, very small beaker of hydrophobic sand, and we put a little droplet of water that's been treated with a blue dye, just so we can see it a lot easier, on top of that hydrophobic sand. And you can see this sort of sat there in the bowl. It's not wetting that sand. And in the second picture on the right-hand side, we have added a couple of granules of our granular wetting agent, SATUGRAN, and literally within moments, like not even a second, that water just sort of goes into the sand. So that's really good demonstration of how wetting agents, how they can be so effective. So a bit more detail about these complicated molecules. So surfactants, wetting agents are what we call usually block copolymers. This is a type of wetting agent that most of our velvet wetting agents are made of. So they're polymers of more than one molecule range in blocks, and I've color coded these molecules here in this sort of very simplified chain. In real life, the chain would be, well, it can be very short, it can be very, very long. It just depends on how it's made. So the blue parts are the hydrophilic bits, and the orange parts are the hydrophobic parts. And usually what you have is blocks of these molecules in polymers. So you've got the hydrophilic parts, and you've got a block of the hydrophobic parts and a block of the hydrophilic parts. And it can be like block of one, block of another, block of one, block of another, or it can be just as we have here with like really long pieces on the end, or a very short piece in the middle and a very long piece in the middle, all kinds of things. And the way that you adjust these molecules changes the way that the wetting agent works. And you remember in the previous slides, I showed you this sort of very definite kind of like hydrophobic end and hydrophilic end. Well, this is how the molecules will kind of bend. This picture in the bottom right hand corner, just there, the molecules will bend so that they've got this pattern of one end being hydrophilic and one end being hydrophobic, and that's how they can sort of arrange themselves in the water so that they are helping the surface tension. And with block polymers, there's various ways that we can adjust the properties. If you think about what you want from wetting agents, and wetting agents, you want them to last a bit longer. So if we want to increase the longevity of a wetting agent, we can make that polymer chain longer, because then it takes longer to break down. So we can adjust the ratio of the EO and PO parts. So we can have longer pieces on the end. That just makes it longer to break down in the soil, because wetting agents are biodegradable. They are polymers. They are biodegradable. Bacteria in the soil will sort of munch away from the ends, as we've got these sort of little yellow guys at the top here. So the longer that chain is, the longer it takes for it to break down. And of course, the things that affect how fast that breaks down is things like temperature, moisture, all the things that affect bacterial growth and action in the soil. So we can make the chains longer or shorter, and this will also adjust the mobility and the longevity of the product. So if you have really, really long chained block copolymer wetting agents, then they move quite slowly in the soil. This means they're less likely to wash out, makes them last longer. Or you can have them really short, and thereby they are sort of acting really fast and then washing out. So we'll come on to the ways this would affect products a bit later in the presentation. We can also reverse the blocks, because the orange hydrophobic parts are more difficult. for the bacteria to break down. So if we put those on the end of the polymer instead of the hydrophilic parts, then that again makes it slower to break down. And we can also put things on the ends, other things on the ends of the wetting agents. So often they'll be capped with methyl groups, and this makes it quite difficult for the bacteria to break down, and therefore the wetting agent is held longer in the soil before it starts to be munched away from the ends. So there's lots of different things that can be done, and most manufacturers will have their own particular ways of getting the product to do what they want it to do. So again, just already mentioned this briefly, the longevity in the soil of a wetting agent depends on things like the soil temperature, this is microreactivity, the chain length, how quickly it's washed out of the soil, and how biodegradable the chain is, how fast the bacteria can degrade that molecule. So now we come on to looking at the Velvit wetting agents. So the very first one is BESTWET. This is our original wetting agent that we've been selling for probably a couple of decades now. It's standard block copolymers. So this is, as we saw in the previous slide, it is the blocks, hydrophilic, hydrophobic, hydrophilic. And then it is designed to be a residual wetter. So what residual means is it hangs around in the soil for a long time. You'll see a few words sort of like thrown about in the wetting agents business. Residual is one of them. Penetrant is another one. Wetters are never like just one or the other. Sometimes they can be more of one than the other, but often you get wetting agents that are a bit of both. BESTWET is mostly residual wetter. It's designed to be non-scorch, again, non-ionic. You'll see this across various marketing things like, oh, our wetting agent is non-ionic. It's non-scorch. It's their sort of like the safe surfactant for use on turf. And so BESTWET is ideal for things like greens, fairways, lawns. It's long lasting. We have a couple of application plans you can do. You can do it monthly, or you can do it at a slightly higher rate every 90 days. So if you are doing lawns, for example, landscaped areas, and you don't want to apply that product every month in the summer, then you can do a 90-day treatment plan. So you apply it once, and in 90 days you do it again, and so on. It's residual, so it's held in the soil, and it's long lasting. BESTWET's also really high quality. It's 100% active ingredients, which means there's no water in there. It's not diluted at all. It's really good quality wetting agent. And the main application period for BESTWET is March to August. This is the same across all of the wetting agents. Obviously, wetting agents are mostly used in sort of spring and summer when it's dry. You can use it all year round if you need to. And BESTWET specifically is really good for being used as a preventative against localized dry patch. So if you have areas in turf where you know it's going to get hydrophobic, and it has done in previous years, you can treat it with this in advance of that becoming a problem. And then, you have a summer where you've got a nice lush green lawn rather than the dry patches. BESTWET's available in 2 10-litre cans. Being manufacturers, we like to make life a bit easier for ourselves. We always manufacture in boxes of 2 10-litre cans. So that's how it comes. But you can have 1 box of those, or 2 boxes, or 30 boxes, or whatever. So again, BESTWET is our sort of original formulation. There are some wetting tablets in the BESTWET brand, which we'll come on to towards the end. But I'm just first of all going to cover all the liquid wetting agents and help you understand those. So move on next to RESOLUTE. RESOLUTE is also a residual wetter, so it's also designed to last longer in the soil. But the difference between RESOLUTE and BESTWET is that RESOLUTE is a reverse block copolymer. So if you remember back to a few slides ago where we had the blue ends in the middle it was orange, and I said if you swap the blocks around, then you can make it last longer in the soil because the hydrophobic parts are more difficult to degrade. Well, this is that case. So this is where the blocks are reversed, so it makes it a bit more difficult, makes it last a bit longer in the soil. RESOLUTE is slightly better quality than BESTWET. It is still 100% active, so actually it's not like BESTWET is lower concentration, but RESOLUTE is more longer lasting. And RESOLUTE is the one that we recommend for greens and very sensitive areas, very high value areas, because it's long lasting. We don't recommend that you do a 90-day treatment program with Resolute. We recommend you stick with the monthly, especially if you're using on greens. If you want to do the 90 days, then we recommend best to go with the BESTWET product. Again, the main application period for Resolute is March to August. Use it as a preventative measure to prevent localized dry patch, or just use it to help with your applications of liquid fertilizers, etc. And also available in 2 by 10 litre cans. Horizon is one of our more recently added products. So Horizon is our penetrant wetter. And what we mean by penetrant wetter is that it will help water get into the soil and move down through the soil profile. So residual means that the wetting agent is going to hang around in the soil. It's going to last for a long time. Okay. Penetrant wetters mean that it's going to just get water into the soil. Penetrants can be used to help with drainage sometimes, but it's a bit of a myth that residuals will help water be retained in soil and penetrants will help water move through soil. So both of them will help water to be retained in soil because it helps it to wet. And once it's wet, it obviously just will stay like that until it dries out. So the penetrant wetter means it just helps it to get through. The penetrant wetter molecules, so the Horizon surfactant molecules that make it up, are smaller molecules. This means that they can move through the soil a lot quicker than the residual wetters. It also means they don't last quite as long. So Horizon is more of a monthly application rate. We don't do a 90-day application rate for Horizon. Because it's smaller molecules, it doesn't last as long. Horizon also is designed for large areas. So this is, fairways, large landscape lawns, etc. It's designed to be cost effective as well. So that you don't have to don't really want to spend quite so much money on these large areas as you would on the high value greens. So Horizon being penetrant is very effective. So the application rate it looks very low compared to the other products, but penetrants are really effective at what they do because they're really small molecules. You don't need quite as much of them. And again, that means that they don't last quite as long in the soil because there's less of them. So with the wetting agent Horizon, the application period again, March to August. You can use this as a sort of preventative measure or something maybe at the beginning of the drought period, sort of mid-June is quite often the case. You can also use Horizon to assist draining some areas. So waterlogged bunkers, for example, where it's obviously very sandy, there should be no reason for it to be waterlogged, but sometimes a little bit of Horizon wetting agent into that water can help that water just drain away through the sand. So that can be a useful tool. So we also have in the liquid wetting agent range is YUCCA, and this actually falls into our organics and biostimulants section of the brochure. So if you found BESTWET and Resolute and Horizon in our brochure, you'd be like, where's YUCCA? So YUCCA is different to the other products. It's not, the active ingredient is not surfactants, it's saponins. So this is a natural molecule that comes from a plant. In this case, it's a plant called Yucca shigera. And its active ingredient in terms of like the wetting agent is the saponin. So these are sort of soapy molecules that cause the surface tension to be reduced. It's not as effective as BESTWET and Resolute because it's not really so engineered, but it's more of a natural alternative. And the extract itself contains other things that give a biostimulant effect to the grass. So if you're looking to ease hydrophobic soil conditions, maybe you've got a slight problem but not too much, or you just want to add this to your regular treatment plan anyway to help improve the quality of the turf, then the Yucca wetting agent is potentially a good one for that. So again, the application period is March to August. You can use it to treat localized dry patch. The application rate for that is quite a lot higher. You'll see on the right hand side here we've got the application rates. We've got a monthly one if you would want to do sort of like a maintenance program. If you want to do dry patch treatment, it's 500 to 1,000 litres a hectare diluted 1-to-1, so it's really quite sort of targeted in that sense. So I did mention before that we had some tablet versions of BESTWET, and this is because sometimes it's just a lot easier to treat a larger area with something like an irrigation tank or a hose. So the tablets are made using the BESTWET formulation. There is 2 sizes of tablets. The picture I've got here is the hose end irrigation tablet. So you get these sort of chambers that go onto hoses, and the tablet sits in there. They come in boxes of 6, and each one of these tablets should treat about 6 to 7 greens. We also have a large 3 kilo tablet. It's quite large, and the idea being with that you hang it in irrigation tank. You can put it in a net bag or some nylon stockings or something. Where you hang the tablet in the tank is going to affect how fast it's used up. So if you hang it by the inlet or the outlet, it's going to be used up fast than if you just sort of sit it down in the corner out of the way. So that can last anywhere from 3 hours to 3 days to 3 weeks. So it just really depends on where you hang it. The good thing about these tablets is that they can dissolve slowly. They can do low dose rates, so you can do it more often. If you're irrigating anyway, then it's something that you don't necessarily need to do extra. You just put the tablet in every now and again. They are made with residual and penetrants as well. So there is the BESTWET formulation there, but there's also some added penetrant. So it will help the water, especially if it's irrigation water or you're watering by hose, will help that water get into the soil fast, which is always, is a useful thing to have. So we also have, and I haven't put a slide on about this, SATUGRAN wetting agent. This is a granular wetting agent that we have got in the brochure. This was added a couple of years ago now, and you can see in this table here, we've sort of blocked it in with the BESTWET because it is essentially the BESTWET liquid put into a zeolite carrier. And this is really good for situations where you don't want to be having to treat liquids. It's a granular, you pour it into the spreader, you just push and go. The application rate is sort of 200 to 300 kilos per hectare. So it's your standard settings on a spreader. It's nothing really that difficult to do. And it's the carrier in that one is zeolites. So again, it's non-scorch, has some benefits in the zeolites itself. And it was a product that we were asked for quite a lot, especially from the lawn care industry and landscaping, to produce a granular wetting agent. So now we have it. So this table here just sort of is a nice overview of all of the wetting agents that we have in the Velvit range. The types they are. So we've got here the BESTWET standard block copolymer, BESTWET tablets, long weight block copolymer and penetrants. The longevities I've put here, you can see the BESTWET, we would say good, RESOLUTE is excellent. Horizon and YUCCA, as previously mentioned, short longevities. And then the rates I've put in there as well. Obviously, the rate is difficult to determine with a BESTWET tablet. You don't really know what it's going to be, but the good thing about it is that you would struggle with a tablet to use enough to scorch the grass. Put it that way. So where would you use these wetting agents? So if you're doing greens, that's a very high value area. You probably want to use BESTWET or RESOLUTE. Those are the two really best ones. They're very engineered and they're very safe. We would always recommend those for greens. If it's a larger space, such as fairways, pitches, then it can be, again, BESTWET, RESOLUTE, or even SATUGRAN or Horizon. So Horizon is the larger turf wetting agent. SATUGRAN is the BESTWET in granular form that you can just apply quite easily with a spreader. If it's lawns, you've got a choice of either BESTWET or SATUGRAN. If you're a lawn care professional, we actually have a wetting agent within our Smart Lawn fertilizers range. And that one is made using the BESTWET technology, because that one is the best one for lawns. Also, you might find that the SATUGRAN is very helpful to you, because you don't have to worry about the water. You can just put it in your spreader and spread the lawn and job done. For outfields and landscapes, very large areas, it's going to be Horizon. Otherwise, you will find it difficult cost-wise. Horizon is engineered to be for large areas to be sort of slightly lower cost. Okay. So don't forget, if you've got any questions so far, you can pop them into the chat box or email them over to us. I'll give you the details in a moment. I'll just go through a few frequently asked questions that we get asked about wetting agents. Can wetting agents be overused? And the answer to this is yes. Similarly to using lots of washing up liquid and cleaning the plates, if you use too much wetting agent and you allowing too much water to wash through the soil, you risk taking some of the nutrients out that you've put in with your fertilizer. You risk causing a problem for the soil bacteria and the fungi and upsetting the natural soil biology. So yes, they can be overused. We always, with any of our products, recommend that you stick to the application rate. The last thing we want is for this kind of thing to wash into natural waterways and rivers, because it can affect things in there. So please stick to the application rates. Can wetting agents be tank mixed with fertilizers? Yes, they can. As I said, they're non-ionic, so the likelihood that they will react with anything that you put into a tank is fairly low. But one thing we always recommend is that you do a jar test. So you get a jam jar and you mix a little bit of the wetting agent with some water and your fertilizer, and then just wait a few hours and see if anything happens. Just wait to let it settle out, and you'll clearly see if there's there's going to be any problem. It will happen in the jam jar, and if you do it so that the concentrations will be slightly higher in the jar than in real life, then you get much more accurate representation of if anything is going to go wrong. So when you're mixing wetting agents and water, just while I think of this, always try to mix the wetting agent into water. So if you have a knapsack spray and you're putting wetting agent into it, fill it with water first, then put the wetting agent in, and then give it a big stir. If you put the wetting agent in first and then pour the water on the top, you will get a lot of foam and it'll make it quite difficult to apply. So wetting agents they are designed to be low foam. This is another thing about wetting agents compared to things like washing up liquids, where they want it to be foamy because then you feel like you get a better quality product. Wetting agents need to be low foam, but they will still foam up if you are mixing them vigorously with water. Okay, so does Velvit have a curative wetter? We don't. Curative wetters are products that are essentially designed to wash soil a bit more like washing up liquid. So they can be a bit harsher. You are likely to scorch if you overuse curative wetters a little bit. So we don't have a curative wetter. What you can do if you are trying to relieve dry patches, just use the BESTWET, the RESOLUTE, the Horizon. These things will allow the soil to wet and not necessarily wash away any of the sort of good bits of the soil that the bacteria need to have healthy turf. Does Velvit have a dew dispersant? We don't have one in the range currently, but we do have one, a dew dispersant that we manufacture that is available, that we are planning to add to the Velvit range, and this is called Haze. So if this is something you're interested in, please get in touch with us, and I'm sure that at some point we will do another webinar or produce some material for you to learn about Haze. So again, going back to the very beginning, we manufacture these products and we sell them through distributors. So if you are currently a distributor of ours, thank you for watching this webinar. We hope you find it useful. If you are a sports turf professional and you're looking to buy some of the products that I have mentioned today in this webinar, you can find a distributor on our website. That is greenbest.co.uk/Velvit. And if you are maybe looking to become a distributor, then we would love to hear from you. All you need to do is just email us, which is sales@greenbest.co.uk, or you can call us on 01963 364 788. All the details are on our website on the contact page. We're always looking for distributors in the UK and especially in other countries. We export Velvit products across the world. We're very experienced with export, and it's one thing that we really love doing. I mentioned the GreenBest Academy at the beginning of this webinar, and if you would like to watch any of the other webinars that we've pre-recorded, please go over there and have a look. We have a few premium courses, paid courses on the GreenBest Academy that might be of interest, and a lot of free webinars about products. And we are planning to do a lot more webinars as we go forward in the year, really supporting our customers and with knowledge, helping them to buy the right products, reducing environmental impacts, things like that. So greenbestacademy.co.uk, you can sign up for free. We'll send you emails when we have new webinars and courses available, and you'll find lots of information on there. It should be really helpful to you. And again, so if you want to get in touch, please call us on 01963 364 788. Our email address is sales@greenbest.co.uk, and the website is greenbest.co.uk. We've got lots of information on there, not just the Velvit product fertilizers, but also Smart Lawn. We also have a range of horticultural fertilizers called Florafeed that might be of interest. And again, we also manufacture bespoke items. So whatever it is that you require that is fertilizer related, not just turf, but anything, potentially we could manufacture something for you. So please consider getting in touch. And so that concludes my webinar. Thank you very much for joining me. We'll be sent a recording of the webinar in an email link very shortly. You'll be able to watch this webinar on the Academy at some point. And yes, I hope it's been very helpful. Thank you very much.